Hey guys, Nick Rogie here with the Ride Lounge. Now, as you know, the Throttlecast is filmed right here in our Peachtree Corners location. The Ride Lounge is a premium car storage and social space built for people who love cars and the community around them. From events to conversations to some incredible machines under one roof. We're reimagining what storage looks like for a car enthusiast. Now, if you like what you hear, there's a link in the description. And if you enjoy conversations like this, subscribe, like it, and enable notifications so you don't miss an episode. Now, let's get to it.
All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Throttlecast. I'm Grant Van Brewer, and I'm joined by Mr. Josh here, one of our founders at Ride Lounge, and I have a special guest today, Eric Schorvitz. How's it going, brother?
Terrific. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for stopping in. We've known each other for, I guess, about a decade or more, back in the days of me at Motor Cars of Atlanta, and
has to be longer than 10 years.
It has to be, yeah. What was your life like during that time? I mean, that's when we first met. So, you know, I remember the 599 being one of the cars that I remember you driving at that time. But what was your life like at that time?
You know, I was small, business entrepreneur, a two-person company, software development, and just madly passionate about Ferrari, Lamborghini, McLaren, and just really enjoying the supercar world and the supercar community in Atlanta.
Yeah. So you had the 599 at that time. What else did you have in the garage during that period?
So the 599 was the track fun car.
Yeah.
Also, I got into Tesla back then. I remember I was at Motor Cars, and I was looking at the 650 McLaren.
Yep.
And it was one of the first ones in Atlanta. It was some beautiful dark red color. And Ed said, the guy turned it down, you could have it. And I said, let me think about it. So I went home, got on the computer, and ordered a Tesla Model S instead. And so I had the Tesla, and I had the 599. But the 599...
what year was this?
This was probably 2014.
Yeah,
okay.
I was there 2015, so yeah.
So the Model S was
2015
very
sounds
new
about
on
right.
the market.
Oh yeah, you were an early adopter at that point.
For the Tesla, yeah. But I lived in St. Ives at the time, and someone in the neighborhood had one of the Roadsters. So it was, and my son played baseball at East Cobb, and one of the dads was like, "You guys just have to invest in this company, Tesla. You have to buy the stock. I day trade it. You have to buy the stock." And I'm like, whatever.
Yeah.
Should have listened to the guy. Had I just put the money I spent on the Model S into the stock, I would have all the cars. But I remember him always talking about Tesla, and I went home and I said, I don't want the 650. Let me just get this silver hardware one, version 6 software car, and ordered it online without even seeing it. And that was back when you could order the suspension the way you wanted. There was a lot of options that you could do.
Yeah.
But yeah, those were the two cars.
That's cool. And then you later decided to sell the 599, or maybe you traded it. Which one was it? I can't remember.
The 599 was my second Ferrari ever. My first Ferrari was a 355.
One of my
manual
favorites.
transmission 355, and we're going to talk about what it means to regret getting rid of cars.
Right. Yeah.
The 355 was a challenging car because it required a lot of maintenance, even back then.
Motor out, all that stuff.
But the 599 story, that's first of all, great car, but the way that, and it really helped me build a relationship with you and with Motor Cars. I was in Italy. To take a tour. I literally flew to Italy to take a tour of Ferrari, Lamborghini, and Maserati. And Motor Cars was gracious enough to call the Lamborghini dealership, because the day that we flew out there to take the tours, I guess the Urus or one of the cars was going to be unveiled, and they said no more people can come in for the factory tour anymore.
Right.
And Motor Cars calls them up and says, "This is our number one customer." I had bought like one car from you.
Yeah.
"This is our number one customer. You have to let them in." And we were the only people on the tour of the Lamborghini factory. And I remember asking one of the guys in there, he was working on an engine, and I said, "Is this the greatest job ever?" And the tour guide had to translate into Italian, and he looks at me and he just goes, it was a very sterile environment, very clean. The waiting room, there was cars glued to the wall sort of thing. It was a really neat experience at Lamborghini. Maserati was cool. There was a guy there from Siberia on the tour.
Oh, interesting.
With, Maserati tattoos, just living the brand.
Oh, wow.
What do you do with the Maserati in Siberia?
You know what? There's no dealership there. He had to buy a used one.
Yeah, but I mean, so let's say you bring it to Siberia. What do you get? Like 2 to 3 weeks a year that you can take it out. Like,
I was surprised to meet somebody from Siberia.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
He was really cool and just like tattooed up with Maserati tattoos. Just loved the brand. But Ferrari's factory was a religious experience.
Next level.
So at that point, I had only owned the 355. In love with the brand since, of course, the Magnum PI days, like most people my age. Just obsessed with the brand, obsessed with the car. I had tracked the 355. I just loved it, but it was hard to keep it maintained.
Yeah.
It was a 95 355.
One of the best sounding V8s, might I add.
It was the one with the brass seals, and so it was like literally like a racing engine in that car. So, if you saw leaks on your garage floor, you're like, oh, good, it's fine.
Yeah, it's working.
It's working. But I take the tour of the Ferrari factory, and I was like a kid in a candy store. I just couldn't believe it. At the time, it was the V8s on the first floor, and then the second floor was like leather and this and that. The next floor was the V12s. 2 robots in the whole facility. One was the Romeo and Juliet, the thing that dips it in the liquid nitrogen and puts the rings in the engine. And the other robot was the windshield. That, to this day, is like the only 2 robots in the entire factory to put the windshield on the car. But my favorite, the funniest part of that tour was the leather shop. There was, of course, all the people working on the leather, and there was a trash bin where a bunch of like scraps of leather were kind of like filling up the bin, and there was a kind of overflowing. And the tour guide goes, and this is the leather that we send to Lamborghini.
oh, wow.
A little slap there, yeah.
I go on this tour. It's 2014 time frame. I go on this tour. I get back to the hotel, and I'm just Ferrari.
Yeah.
I look at the Motor Cars website from Italy, and I see this $599 on the website. I call Ed Bolian from Italy, and I said, Ed, tell me about that car. He goes, why are you calling me?
Yeah.
He goes, you're in Italy. You should have fun. I said, I want that car. Tell me about it.
Yeah.
And he tells me all about it, and he says, I haven't even washed it yet. It just got here. When you get back, I'll show it to you. So I get there, and it was a 2011, so like the last $599 to come off the factory before the GTOs started getting built.
That's right, yeah.
And $400,000 MSRP, and they wanted $200 for it.
Beautiful car.
And it didn't have the HGTE package, though. I was like, who the hell builds a $400,000 $599 and doesn't have the HGTE package on it? But it was beautiful. It was that Rubino Metallicizzato, and the only other one was like the president of Ferrari had one, but it was all Rubino.
Yeah.
This one had the flat gray top, flat gray wheels, black interior with red stitching. Gorgeous.
Yep. Carbon shields on that car.
Oh, I put the carbon shields on there.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I did that. So I buy the car, and I immediately try to track down an HGTE package. But remember now, that's seats, suspension.
A lot of suspension.
As well as exhaust. And it's 2011 already. And the car is already out of production. They're making the GTO. GTOs were already done because it's already, 2014. So car's out of production. Ferrari of Atlanta, I have to give them credit. They took this seriously. We got to find one. And I said, I don't need the seats. I don't need the wheels. I don't want the wheels. As a matter of fact, I want to keep my wheels that match the top.
Yeah.
So they found the carbon fiber shields. They found some other pieces that I wanted, little pieces. But they found the exhaust, and they found the suspension in Italy.
Golly.
One left at Ferrari factory.
Unbelievable.
Gets shipped to Ferrari of Atlanta. And to talk about what great mechanics they have at Ferrari of Atlanta, the mechanic who did the suspension change, he said he had to do it 3 times because he wanted to get it right to the millimeter. I'm like, how am I ever going to know this? To the millimeter?
Yeah.
He said he took it off 3 times to get it just right. And I think I put about 25 grand into that car. And it was just perfect.
Yeah.
Took it to Roebling Road, raced it there. But just, you know, what people don't realize about the 599, most people probably don't realize about the 599, is it is literally a Ferrari Enzo.
Correct.
With a 599 body
That's
kit.
right. Yeah, the engine, everything.
And the flying buttress, and it is such a remarkably beautiful and timeless car, but it is faster around Fiorano than the Enzo.
Unbelievable.
So it is literally the Enzo with a body kit.
And the flying buttresses, hopefully I'm not incorrect on this, but I think that happened by accident.
I
if I
don't
remember correctly, and
I
then they
don't know
figured
the
out that those flying buttresses actually created downforce on the rear, and then they're like, okay, well that works.
That works. Yeah. I mean, it really is a beautiful, timeless car.
Yeah, it is.
And you're driving an Enzo. You're driving a $5 million car.
Yeah.
Just stealth mode.
Powerful, man. Upper power band, just unbelievable to
Right?
drive.
And if you're one of the lucky few that got a manual,
I don't think I've even seen one in person.
6, 7, 8,
Yeah.
something like that. But so that car, you know, they always say when you're a small business owner, don't flash, right? Your clients don't want you to be driving around in a Ferrari.
Generally speaking,
I
yeah.
found that not to be the case. So there's 2 things that 599 did for me from a business and a friendship perspective. First of all, we got to meet.
Yep.
But also, you know, got to really get to know Ed,
Yep.
who now is, you know, moved on to, you know, his different ventures. But my clients actually were more comfortable working with me because, again, I was a 1-person company turning into a 2-person company. And, like, if he's driving that, I don't have to worry about him going broke or disappearing or not being around.
Sure.
But the other fascinating part about that car is back then, the warranty book contained the name of the first person that owned it. The second person who owned it traded it in on a P1, on a McLaren P1. The first owner, though, his name was in the warranty book. And I said, I need to know who the hell ordered this car because it is perfect. It looked like a GTO with the body colors.
Oh, yeah.
But I had to know.
And I think it even had the mesh grills from the GTO
It
in front.
so I put that on.
Okay.
So I went into the warranty book, and sure enough, there's his name, and it said Atlanta.
Yep.
So I go onto Facebook, and it was a very common name. So I'm like, but how many people in Atlanta can have that very common name?
Yeah.
And I go onto Facebook, 1,000.
Wow.
So I'm like, I'm going to find out who
in
this is.
Atlanta.
And that came up is profiles I had to look at.
Yeah.
Start at the top.
Yep.
I get to this one profile, and I said, this could be him. He didn't have Ferraris on his page or anything, but I was like,
Fits the bill.
it's the bill.
Yeah.
And you know who he is.
Yeah, yeah.
So I send him a text, have you ever owned a purple Ferrari? And he replies back, that's mine. And I said, I've got to meet you. I've got to know who you are. So I call him up, and he says, yeah, you know, I have owned 30 Ferraris, and I was really big into it, and I ordered it. They told me to order it to look like a GTO because the GTOs were coming out. Supposedly it's the last one that ever was made on the Ferrari factory line, so you've got like the last 599. But yeah, it was designed to look like a GTO.
Yeah, they pulled it off really well.
And he really did.
Yeah.
And so, and he goes, but I want you to know something. Like, it sounds like you're, you know, you're doing pretty well. You got a nice family, and you're a good guy. You don't want to know me.
That's what he said.
You don't want to know me. You don't want to be.
Wow.
I'm the devil. You don't want to know me. I said, when can we have lunch? And we have been like best friends ever since. Yeah. He is now executive chairman in my company.
Oh, wonderful.
But why did he say that, though?
I think he was just, you know, he was in a different part of his life.
Okay,
I was in a different part of my
fair enough,
life,
yeah.
And
he's
also he's got a really awesome sense of humor.
He does.
Yeah.
He's one of the most just, he when you get to know him, he's very sensitive. And if you don't know him, he seems very unapproachable.
Right.
Yeah.
But he is one of the just most genuine, kindest, sweetest, and he'll know who he is when he sees this. But we are friends, and also we work together. but I consider him a big brother. And if it weren't for the Ferrari, I never would have known him.
It's amazing.
Incredible.
Yeah, he's always been super kind to me.
But it's a really cool community. The Ferrari community is probably the most unique. I haven't really spent much time with the Porsche community, but the McLaren and the Lamborghini folks, they all have their own little vibe.
Yeah, I would agree.
The Ferrari community, what I find fascinating about it, I've been to Italy twice to do the factory tour. I have, and we could talk about some of what that was like, but the community that we have here, the Ferrari community and the Ferrari community worldwide, you never know if you're sitting next to a guy where he's got a Mondial, that's the only thing he has. He spent every nickel to buy that Mondial, $30,000 Ferrari, or if you're sitting next to the guy that's got an $80 million collection.
Right.
And I've been on bus rides at racing at their Port Costa Pilota. I've been in Italy on the bus heading to this and that. And, oh, you're going to the Ferrari tour? My 288 and my F40 are probably my favorite. And then the guy over here is like, I'm here on the tour. I'm thinking about getting my first Ferrari. And you couldn't, if I told you he was the guy that said he has the 288 and the F40, and this is the guy that says, you wouldn't have known.
There's just a mutual bond.
It's just everybody has such a passion for the brand, for the car, for the everything. And I've been to some grand, openings, or where they display a new model. I've been to simple dinners, and the Ferrari Club of America when we celebrate Enzo's birthday. It's just everybody's at the same level. It's really unique to the Ferrari brand.
Now, with the 599, you mentioned that was one of the dumbest decisions you ever made selling it.
Yes.
Talk to me more about that.
Well, again, because you're literally driving an Enzo with a 599 body kit, and you can pick up a 599 for $100 and something thousand to $200 and something thousand if you're talking about the GTB. Now, if you're talking about a GTO, it's $1 million. If you're talking about the convertible ones that they kind of played around with, right? They had like they got a Perita, and they had some others. But if you're talking about the standard 599, or if you're talking about 100, if you're talking about the GTE, HGTEs, you're talking about 200. Front engine V12, gorgeous Ferrari, Enzo with a body kit.
Yep.
You can't go wrong. And I put my heart and soul into upgrading what was already an incredibly beautiful car. By putting that front grille on, by putting the carbon fiber shields on, by finding the last HGTE package, and having about $225,000 into that car. First of all, I had a great track car, great daily driver. I felt like a movie star driving it. And it just was great at car shows. It was just such a perfect car. And I traded it in because I wanted to try McLaren, and I bought the 570 Jetpack. I mean, a testament to McLaren. They build super lightweight, super fast jetpacks.
They do. Yep.
But I quickly regretted the decision because my heart's with Ferrari.
Yeah. Yeah, and I ended up selling that car after you traded it. I still know the guy that has it. I guess he still has it. He did some further upgrades to it. But
if you're there, give me a call.
We'll call him Sal. Sal, do you still have the car? Hit me up. Let me know. So you've had quite a few cars up until now. The V12 versus the V8 debate. Which one's the real world? The real one in the Ferrari world. I mean, you've owned both. So what's your take on those two configurations?
Well, I gave a little bit of a hint as to what my thought would be on that by saying I felt like a movie star in the 599. The V8 and now V6 Ferraris, you feel like a race car driver. In the V12 cars, you feel like a movie star. There is nothing like a V12 Ferrari. The sound, the feel, the experience, the way it makes you feel, the way that you experience the car, naturally aspirated V12, you can't explain it. It's just it's a connection.
Yeah, you're like sewn into the car.
You really are.
Yeah.
Even with the Purosangue, if anybody could pull off turning a car this size into a Ferrari experience, it has to be Ferrari, right? You can look at the other SUVs that exist with the other brands. You don't feel like you're in a Lamborghini when
Right.
you're in Urus.
Yeah.
Right? That's not the intention. The intention of this car is you still feel like you're in a Ferrari.
Ferrari, exactly. Yeah.
And it's a natural evolution. V8 and the V6 cars, you're in a race car. The 355 was a race car.
Mm-hmm.
At least the 95 one was. It
challenge.
changed it as it went on. But the sports cars that they have, you are in a car whose legacy, the heritage, the lineage of that car is racing.
Yeah.
It was there originally to help fund a racing team. These cars are here so that Frederick Vassar can do what he needs to do, right? So, that is, so which one do I want? If I had, if you said you're stuck, you have to pick one Ferrari, it's going to be the racing feel because, of course, I'm on the track and I want that experience. But I've taken this on the track. I will take all of my 12-cylinder cars on the track because I will take all of my other cars on the track.
And then in terms of vehicles that you have coming, you got a couple cool cars on the way, right? Can you talk about that?
So I think Enzo Ferrari summed it up best when he says, my favorite one is the next one.
Yeah. That's a good answer.
But I can say, and I think a lot of folks that are into Ferrari will say that right now the greatest car they've ever made is the 296.
I'm hearing that a lot.
So if you watch other podcasts where guys will say it's a dud, they messed up, going to the hybrid V6 turbos was a mistake. It's
clickbait.
They've never had one. They've never driven one. Forget about had one. They've never driven one. I've been in a 296 Challenge car. It's unbelievable.
Machine,
it's
yeah.
unbelievable. But the 296 is the greatest car I think ever made. I've had the SF90.
Strong.
The SF90 V8 turbo. It's got the two motors in the front wheel, so you got the torque vectoring. And I rode Atlanta 180 into turn 9. So you've got 1,000 horsepower. You've got that V8 turbo. Anyone who says turbocharging a Ferrari is a mistake just doesn't understand the history of Ferrari and doesn't understand turbocharging with a hybrid engine. You don't have turbo lag with electric hybrid.
Right. Yep. It's instant.
You don't have shift lag anymore with a hybrid because the electric motor makes up the difference, right? So you have a very different experience with the car, and the SF90 is a remarkable car, and the way that they're being priced right now, you are literally getting just an incredible machine at a reasonable price.
Oh, yeah.
But the 296 is a go-kart. It is a track car. It is a go-kart. It has one electric motor on the drivetrain, and it is gorgeous. It is a 250 LM throwback. I don't care what anybody says. That thing has it is a 250 LM, and it is gorgeous. So what do I have coming? Because I love the 296, I've had 3 of them. Because I love the 296 so much, I have a Special coming.
That's exciting.
But I designed it, and I think I have the chassis number right, 3065, I believe it is. The 250 LM, there was one LM Special made back in 1965. It didn't catch on as a homogenizer, whatever they had to do. It's white. It has blue stripes and a red interior. And I went to New York for the Tailor Made program, and I said, I want my Special to be a homage to the 1965 250 LM Special.
Yeah.
And Aldo is going, if he ever watched, one of the Tailor Made guys in New York, I think I drove him nuts. Because I needed to make sure that the blue stripe matched exactly to the dimensions of the 1965 car. And there's an author, Marcel, his name is slipping me, the last name's slipping me right now, but he's the foremost expert on the 250s. And I thought, well, I've been going back and forth with Aldo trying to figure out, is this 25 millimeter, 200, is this,
Oh, wow.
how many millimeters was this outer blue stripe versus the inner white stripe versus the center stripe?
Just to get it exact.
And Aldo says, I'm pretty positive the middle one's 210 millimeters. And I'm like, going into Grok saying, okay, take this image, and then going into Photoshop and, okay, make this 210 pixels, so then see how many pixels this is. So I finally decided to email Marcel and say, do you have any idea what the dimensions of this livery is? And I said, I'm willing to pay for your time, anything that you can do to tell me, because I know you've actually seen the car. And I get an auto reply back saying he's on vacation, 2 months, never going to hear from him. A couple hours later, he emails me. He goes, I have no idea what the dimensions are. Don't use a metallic paint for the stripe. It wasn't metallic back then. And by the way, here's 15 images of the car that might help. And there were 2 that were dead on. So we were able to get the dimensions of the stripes. And I reached out to Aldo, and he said, that's what we're going to do. So I'm trying to, and what really upset me, and Piero Ferrari, I apologize, but Piero Ferrari did a homage to that 250 LM Speciale with his SP3, with the Daytona SP3.
Daytona, yeah.
He was able to obviously color match, but he didn't do the stripe exactly the same. He didn't do the colors. He did metallic colors and did a homage in that regard. Mm-hmm. But I'm trying to be more true to, no shields on the side. I wanted to do all chrome wheels, but they wouldn't let me. And Aldo, by the way, I always say to him, we're going to argue, but you have veto power.
There you go, yeah.
So if he says no, the answer is no. So, he really tries to help keep it as a homage, but also, there's certain things you just don't want to do.
Sure.
So that's the Speciale. And on the Cylindri Spider, I am doing a homage to a 1971 Daytona.
Oh, perfect.
This is one that Piero Ferrari has autographed. It was one of those, ground-up restorations, 1970. I don't remember the chassis number of this one, but it's silver with a red and black interior. And I did that one with their Atelier program.
Oh, man.
The Atelier did 3 customers in Atlanta were able to do Atelier here, and they picked me to be one of the people.
That's fantastic.
So my wife and I did a homage to that car. I did exactly the same color. And Ferrari had just come out with their new red leather. It's something with a G. I don't remember the Italian word.
Yeah, you gotta remember
but we decided to go with that color interior, match the Daytona stripes on the seats, black, red alternating, match the diamond pattern on certain things. But I get very particular about how I try to do these homage cars. I tried to do a 250 LM throwback with a 296 GTB, and I did a wood steering wheel.
No way.
And it got approved.
Wow.
Waited a year. It got approved, but then it got rejected because they said the crash test of a wood steering wheel was splintering, and they couldn't do it. Now you can do wood steering wheel again.
Interesting.
So you were able to do a wood steering wheel. I ordered a wood steering wheel.
Couldn't get it.
They cancel it. Then you can do a wood steering wheel again. But I tried to do a 250 LM, the red with white stripe, blue interior sort of look. That one got canceled. But the Cylindri Spider is going to be the 1971 Daytona throwback, and then I'll have the 65 LM Speciale. So those are the 2 coming next. So I either do something like this, which is $5,000 in options, right? Because this car comes with pretty much everything you want. And then I'll do a Tailor Made, but, they're meaningful. So I love to see that Ferrari is doing a lot of throwback stuff.
Yeah,
the F80 has a lot of 70s cues.
Mm-hmm.
The obviously the 296 has 60s and 80s cues, like the bridge in the back, like the 308s and 328 sort of bridge. You're seeing in the Cylindri, obviously, the 70s cues, new Testarossa with the split rear wing from the 70s Daytona race cars. So they're starting to do a lot of homage stuff just on their own, which I love.
Yeah.
I love these throwback things because it reminds me when I fell in love with the brand in the first place.
Especially when they do it right, like they're doing. You know, there's a lot of manufacturers that'll do a throwback, and you're like, well, not quite, right?
But these are cues, right? These are, you know, it's not like they built a 250 LM, but when you look at the 296, you're like, duh.
Yeah.
You look at the Chilindri, you're like,
Well, of
I mean,
course.
the plate in the front.
I mean, come on, it's got Daytona
There's
written
your
all
Daytona,
over it. Yeah.
right?
Very cool. Just want to shift gears a little bit. Let's go back to kind of the entrepreneurial side, if you don't mind. Josh, you want to?
Yeah. So, you know, you grew up in Chicago, built this business, and I see the passion that you bleed for Ferrari. Obviously, you probably live that every day in your business as well. How do you apply Ferrari engineering, programming philosophy into the business? Like when you walk into your business, is there a big Ferrari sign that says, these are the principles of Ferrari, we follow all these as well?
I think the same way you hear my passion about Ferrari is also the passion about my business. I have, for most of my career, been an entrepreneur, have run my own business. I have worked a number of years, 2-3 years of my 30 years for other companies. I've worked for Barclays Global Investors in San Francisco. That became BlackRock. I did work for a company called Claris in Suwanee, Georgia, which is what brought me to Georgia. But that was because they acquired a company of mine out of San Francisco. And I have worked for CheckFree, which was also a great experience. And Pete Kite is probably one of the greatest mentors I've ever had. Just an all-around awesome guy. When I've talked about you never know the guy sitting next to you could be that guy, he's just an awesome example of that. So blessed to have some great mentors like that. The few years that I've worked outside of my own business. But I think that bringing that excitement and passion to your own business is what gets you through the eating beans out of can years you're going to have. So, eating steak for dinner is great, and it's rewarding. But being able to eat beans out of a can, there were a number of years recently where I had to pay myself minimum wage. I couldn't pay myself less because then I wouldn't be able to pay benefits, right, healthcare through my company. So there were years where I was making $35,000, $36,000 a year, wondering, am I doing the right thing? And yeah, it's great when you can pay yourself hundreds of thousands of dollars and pay your employees hundreds of thousands of dollars. That's an amazing feeling. But to look in the mirror or look at your spouse and say, I'm making $36,000 this year, so I have to figure out, how, what are we going to sell, or what are we going to do, or how are we going to tighten our belt? And you can't do that without having a passion for what you do, because you'll begin to doubt yourself. You're going to be and if you don't have the support, right? If my wife said to me, I can't do that.
Right.
Or, her answer was, yeah, we'll figure it out, right? She's like, I work, you work, we'll figure it out. We've got savings, we've got this. I believe in you. And behind every great man, there's an even greater woman, as and
absolutely,
right? It's just, you just, I forget who said the only reason I can see further is I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. My wife is one of those giants. And without her support, a lot of this would have been difficult, going from a 2-person company, trying to commercialize the technology, going to a 20-something person company, raising money from other people, and now being responsible for them, right? You go to bed at night, I've got 100 investors, let's say. I didn't have any investors before. It was just me and my wife looking in the mirror, me and my partner looking in the mirror saying, is this what we really want to do? Now we have employees that count on us. We have investors that believe in us. And you think about every single one of them every single day.
Yeah.
And so you try to bring in the best and the brightest. You're going to make mistakes. Your biggest liability are your employees. And I mean that from I mean that from the heart. Your employees are either going to be your biggest liability or they are going to be what make your company great. And you can't do it alone. So, you bring in the wrong people, you could destroy your own company. No matter how great you are, no matter how great, the people were that preceded them, you bring in the wrong people, you could have a real problem. Yeah. You bring in the right people, you'll be nothing but successful. And a lot of the folks that work with us, I've known some of the people that work with us now when they were little children. They're the son of one of our clients is now an employee. One of our employees, she's about to start a family. We knew her when she was in high school, right? We have folks that have worked with us for decades. They trust us, we trust them, and it's just a wonderful working relationship. And now as we grow, we have to start bringing in people we don't know. Bring in executives, bring in board members, bring in investors. And we've been very blessed for the majority of the time to just be around really just trusting, wonderful, great people. And that will make or break. I don't care what kind of technology you have. I don't care what kind of factory you have. I don't care what kind of inventions you have. It will. Your employees and the relationships you build will either be your biggest liability or your biggest asset. And the last thing I can say about that, and again, you can see the passion again about this. My father, I think, said it best. Be careful of the toes you step on climbing the ladder of success, because you will kiss them on the way back down. And so when you knock on a door to make a sale, when you shake somebody's hand, when you commit to something, your word is the most valuable thing you have. Your reputation is the most valuable. People understand mistakes. People understand it took 2 weeks longer, took 3 weeks longer. I thought it was going to cost this. Everybody understands that. What they don't understand is somebody who's dishonest, somebody who tries to con, somebody who tries to go around. My father saying that the way he said it is probably the best lesson to learn about how to be successful as an entrepreneur. Mean what you say and say what you mean. And people can read through bullshit quickly. Yep. When you're passionate, when you love what you do, when you believe in what you do, when you have something that can change the environment, change the for us, change the development ecosystem. We get excited about it. People want to hear what we're doing, and your reputation precedes you.
Powerful.
I love this passion. So on that note, does your wife share the same passion for these toys as you do?
That's a great question. My wife is an absolutely amazing human being. She's a teacher of the visually impaired. Just an amazing heart, an amazing mind, and an amazing soul. She was not as passionate about cars. She loves big SUVs.
Okay.
She loves big cars. And Ferrari of Atlanta was gracious enough to invite her to Corsa Pilota. And I'd already been to Corsa Pilota, and I was just going to go as a guest. I'm like, why am I going to go? I'll pony up the bucks and go again just to do Corsa Pilota. She was not excited about it at all. Didn't want to be in the challenge car. Didn't want to be on the track. Didn't want to go fast. And by the way, she's a great driver, great street driver. Didn't want to do any of it. The instructor got her out of her shell, got her to go faster, this and that. She's like, I'm not getting in the challenge car. Anthony Lazaro here in Atlanta was her instructor and took her out on the hot lap. So she trusted him. She gets out of the car. She goes, it's the greatest thing I've ever done.
That's awesome.
Nice.
And so she's now, she goes to all the Ferrari Club of America events with me. She came with me to Milan for the Testarossa unveiling. She went to the factory tour with me. Now, it was, of course, again, a religious experience for me. for her, it was like, okay, I get it. I see why you're so, but she had an open mind. This is not my thing. But now, she loves the Purosangue. It's her favorite car. So I think that the important thing is that she now has an appreciation for why this is such a big passion for me. And
awesome. So for the audience here, I think there's a lot of guys out there that get really excited, really passionate about cars, but their spouse just cannot connect with it at all. So if there's one word of advice that you'd give to someone to say, hey, how do I get my spouse engaged in this? At least enough to let me go have more fun.
Right.
What's the word of advice?
There's those funny memes where they say if you're in a fight with your wife, go buy a Ferrari because you'll still be in a fight, but at least you have a Ferrari.
That's one way to do it.
The one thing that I think could kind of transcend the whole automotive thing would be, being able to have an open dialogue, right? Communication is the key to any relationship, whether it's with your kids, whether it's with people in business, whether it be with your spouse, whatever it is, do you have a few moments, right? Let's just sit down and this is what's in my basket. This is what I've brought to the relationship. This is who I am. And, my spouse is my best friend. So it's easy for me to talk about my passions with her. It's harder to talk about challenging things, right? But I think that if you're married to somebody that's not passionate about cars, I think it's easier to focus on a car or a brand as opposed to cars in general.
Okay.
Because with my wife, it was really, Ferrari. We drove, the hybrid McLaren, the Artura. We've done some other brands and things like that, and she can tell I'm excited, but yes, I got it right.
Yeah.
I think if I was passionate about collecting frogs, right, I think that she would.
Yeah,
really want to understand why I'm so excited about frogs.
Yeah, what I've seen with my spouse is, there's such few moments in day-to-day life that you can see each other at like a 10 out of 10 level of excitement or happiness. Like I have 4 kids, so it's just like daily management of like going through the routine of stuff. It's like, I don't even think it's once a week where you get like a 10 out of 10 excitement for something. But like this excitement that you have for Ferrari, that she's like, wow, you are so passionate and so excited. I just want to be around you in this mode.
Right.
And I think that's the opportunity that she has with you, and that like you're just this level 10 person when you're around Ferrari. Like, how does she get a piece of that? And she has to be around Ferrari to get a piece of that, which is, I think, is awesome.
Yeah.
And the people, again, I mentioned earlier that it's it's a really cool community, and so she has made friends with the other wives at the Ferrari Club of America or at Ferrari of Atlanta events. And it's like, oh, I can't wait to see so-and-so. We go out with couples now that we've met through Ferrari Club events and Ferrari of Atlanta events. And the only other advice I can give is be just as passionate about the things she's passionate about. Really, if you want her to really understand why you're passionate about something, well, guess what? She's going to be passionate about things too, and have just as much interest in learning what she's passionate about. And as I think it was Andy Stanley who said, you guys are playing tug of war with a rope, just drop the rope. Be the one to drop it first.
So
right?
good. Yeah.
So,
Awesome.
And then speaking of relationships, I think you made some pretty good relationships with some people that are high up at Ferrari. I think with one of your factory tours, or was it the unveiling of the Testarossa? Talk to us about that.
So the unveiling of the Testarossa was a really cool opportunity. Ferrari of Atlanta invited a few couples to go to Milan, and Ferrari covered part of the, covered the hotel stay and this and that, and we knew it would be a big event. It was in Milan, and we extended the vacation a little bit, went with another couple, had a great time, Lake Garda, a lot of cool stuff, but we were staying at the Portrait Milan and get bused to the facility that they were going to have the unveiling at. And you walk into this room. It was, of course, brilliantly done. And I actually met some really cool people at that event. A guy that I still stay in touch with. He lives in Australia.
Oh,
I
cool.
reach out to him for advice on cars. So, I mean, just you build really cool friendships. And we're at the event. They open up this room, and front row seats have reserved, and then all the other seats are open. And my wife, I'm just dumbfounded. She runs and gets the seats behind the front row. And we sit down, and there's Piero Ferrari. I don't think anybody recognized him. Manzoni was there. Fulgenzi was there. Paige Hope was there, all sitting in the front row. And I look at my wife and I said, I don't think anybody recognizes Piero Ferrari. I think I'm just going to go over and say hello. So I walk over and I said, Mr. Ferrari, thank you for having my wife and I at this event. We're really grateful to be here. Thank you so very much. And he shook his hand. That was it. I walked back to my wife and I said, probably should have taken a picture. So we walked back over. I said, do you mind if I have my wife take a picture of us? And took a picture, shaking his hand. And as soon as I did that, everybody's like, that must be somebody. So then a line forms, but there's also a guy standing there in an F1 collared shirt. Like, everybody's dressed in suits, but there's one guy standing there in a collared shirt. And I looked over at my wife. I said, that's Frederick Vassar. I'm sure everybody knows who he is, right? I would think that most people there are F1 fans. Like, I'm going to go over and say hello to him. So we walk over. I said, congratulations on a great season. This is really exciting and just a real pleasure to meet you. And go to take a picture. And then, of course, a line forms behind him, right? The event starts. Charles Leclerc shows up, which is pretty funny because later, Charles Leclerc, I don't know how the Formula One driver.
It depends on.
I'm not a Formula One guy, but
depends on what your
Close
first language
enough.
is.
Charles is there.
Yeah.
And he speaks, and Manzoni speaks. Everybody's talking about the car, how it was designed. What was also funny is before they unveiled the name of the car, I'm sitting right behind Paige Hope, who's like the chief brand marketing, highest up on the marketing side. I'm sitting right behind her, and they're giving the presentation, and they're like, at some point you're going to be able to guess the name of the car, but we're going to give you a hint. Le Mans winner in the such and such. And I look over at my wife. I go, I know it's going to be called the Testarossa because they just went through all that trouble to get the trademark back. Mm. They just referenced the TR car from the Le Mans win.
There you go. Yeah.
And I looked at my wife like, Testarossa. And so they go through and they finally say it's the Testarossa, 849 Testarossa. I couldn't guess the 849 part. Then we go into another room for dinner, and I'm sitting like a couple of seats over from Paige. And I'm talking to an LA Ferrari dealer, and they're talking about a bunch of stuff. And can you believe the name? And I look over at Paige. I said, please tell me you heard me yell out Testarossa at the beginning. She goes, I heard you. I said, look, if I call you 10 years from now, just back me up that I actually predicted the name of the car. And I guessed it only because they had spent so much effort trying to get the trademark back. So anyway, the event ends, absolutely phenomenal. And, of course, I'm talking to the L.A. guy. Oh, and I look over at the head of North America. I forget, his name slips me right now. I didn't know there was going to be a test. So I'm sitting, like, the head of North America, some other of the executives from Ferrari. And I look over at one of the guys, one of the executives, and I said, the Testarossa never had a spider. I said, is it safe to say that you will have a Testarossa spider or not? And like, as I'm asking him that question, someone gets on a microphone and goes, we have one more surprise. And they drive out the Testarossa spider, and they all looked at me like, how did you?
Amazing.
Like, there never was such a, like, I guess, in the Middle East, they were kind of customizing the Testarossa to be a Spider.
That's right, yeah.
But they never had a Testarossa Spider.
Didn't Michael Jordan have a Testarossa Spider? Maybe his
Might
was a
have
coupe.
cut his.
Yeah.
So I actually have a funny story about Michael Jordan's Testarossa.
Oh, is that right?
I licked it.
Oh.
Okay.
I wasn't expecting that.
So
Yeah.
I lived in Highland Park, and then I lived in Winnetka, Illinois.
Okay.
And he had a black Testarossa. We also had a red one.
Yeah.
And he had it. It was a couple of Russian kids that ran like one of those custom stereo shops. They were working on Michael Jordan's red Testarossa, and I licked it. And everyone looked. I mean, I was a kid. And everybody looked at me and like, "What the hell are you doing?" I'm like, "For the rest of my life now, I guess I licked it." So I got to tell it on the podcast. Yeah, I think
awesome.
One of the license plates he has was MJJJ. I think I remember.
Yeah.
Like he lived in Highland Park, right? I lived in Winnetka, Highland Park, and Deerfield, and it wasn't uncommon to see, in the 80s, it wasn't uncommon to see the bulls running around.
And when you saw a Testarossa in that era, like it was somebody.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, at that point.
Back
Definitely
then,
that
it was
era.
Oh, and I would always go into Lake Forest Ferrari. So the Mancuso family. Shout out to the Mancusos. When I was a kid, you guys were so gracious to me. High school, college kid going into Lake Forest Ferrari. This is back when they were in that wood-paneled, tiny little building. And I walked in one day, and there's an F40. Brand new, $688,100 MSRP on the window. Couldn't sell it. And I took a picture in front of it. I got the picture. They had a 328 there. They had like a lot of the, and there I am standing next to an F40 that nobody wanted. And to this, if you think back to that day, it's like, I remember seeing there a, what do they call it? The Dino, the 246.
Yeah.
A yellow Dino there, and they were trying to sell it for like $40,000.
Nobody wanted it.
Nobody
either.
wants it.
Yeah.
And now those cars are unobtainium. So after the unveiling of the Testarossa, a couple of days later, we're now in Bologna, and the other couple that my wife and I were with says, "You pick the restaurant tonight." So I find this little Italian restaurant, outdoor patio and everything, and this is it. I pick it. Waiter comes up, "What are you guys doing in Italy?" Well, we were just in Milan for the unveiling of the Testarossa, and I got to meet Frederick Vassar. I got to meet Piero Ferrari. I got to meet all these people. He goes, "Oh, Frederick eats here all the time." Whatever.
Yeah, sure.
Comes back 20 minutes later, he goes, "He's right there with his wife and kid." So I said, "Give me his bill. Let me buy his dinner."
No, you didn't.
No, that's awesome.
Oh, wow.
Buy his dinner. And I used that as an excuse to get up and say hello. And I walked over and I said, "Hi, I met you on Wednesday at the unveiling of the test." He goes, "I remember you." He goes, "Why are you so into?" I told him a little bit about it. He said, "Did you want?" I said, "I went on the factory tour. I got to see the new E building." I said, "I got to see the new F1 setup." He's like, "Have you been on Fiorano yet?" I said, "I've done Corsa Pilota twice, but from flying to Utah for Corsa Pilota, the time change, messed with my head." I said, "I couldn't imagine flying to Italy to do Corsa Pilota on Fiorano." He goes, "Next time you're in town, call me and I'll get you on Fiorano." He gives me his cell phone number.
That's incredible.
So I get back to the hotel and I try to text him, and the text says invalid number. So I'm like, there's no way he did that. And so I get onto WhatsApp and I type in the same number on WhatsApp, and it went through, and I said, "Hi, I met you." He goes, "Yeah." So we started texting and I said, "Look, if you're ever at Road Atlanta, I'd love to, if you're ever in Atlanta, I'd love to see you." Because, they have the Challenge Series sometimes at Road Atlanta, but just making sure that I got the right number.
That's pretty cool.
And so that was, and then the couple that we went with, we get to the porch at Milan after the event, and I'm like, "I'm exhausted. I'm just going to bed." And he's like, my wife and I are going to stay down for a minute. He gets upstairs. He goes, "I got stuck in the elevator with Charles's girlfriend and her dog." And we met Charles Leclerc and they took a picture with him. So I cropped out my friend from the picture, and I sent to one of my daughters saying, "Look who I got stuck in the elevator with," because she's in love with him.
That's
So
amazing.
look who I got stuck in the elevator with.
So cool.
But because I was tired, I missed the chance to meet him in person. But as you can imagine, just solid, just compact, very dense, compact, very strong neck, just built to be a race car driver.
Yeah.
Like genetics
Yeah.
play a part in being able to be a Formula One driver.
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
And then you've got to have, not only the genetics, but then just the strength and the
Endurance.
endurance
All
for that.
Yep. So time for rapid fire. We're just going to
Okay.
ask you a couple short questions. Just give me a short answer on each of these here. Dream 3-car garage today, right now, no restrictions.
Oh, my God.
Come on.
Dream car. Okay, they're all going to be Ferraris. They have to be. I think the 288 GTO has to be there.
Oh, yeah.
I think that is just it 328 throwback kind of 328 vibes.
Oh, yeah.
But
More
the
of it.
car to
Yeah.
have. I've been in one. I've never driven one. I've been in one while it was moving, and it's surreal. God, there's so many great Ferraris. I mean, right now the 296 is the greatest car ever made. Got to have a daily driver in the garage.
Love it.
So the 296, and then you got to have some sort of touring V12. And I think, like Enzo always said, the best one is the next one. The Chilindri Spider is
Right.
there.
Manual, paddle, or honestly doesn't matter at this level?
Here's my prediction for Ferrari. The 296 is ending its production with the Challenge Stradale. We're already under the belief that it is going to be no hybrid, so just a turbo V6.
So what kind of power are we talking?
So we're talking maybe 600 horsepower.
I see where you're going with this.
So my prediction with that car, and if you look at the spy photos, that guy who sits outside the factory taking all the spy photos, you always see them with their hands on the steering wheel, both hands. If you look at the Challenge Stradale, one hand. My prediction for the
Okay.
Challenge Stradale, and it's here on Throttlecast first, my prediction is that car will be a manual transmission.
Oh, let's hope so.
So, or at least a manual transmission option. Anybody who doesn't order it with a manual transmission needs to be thrown out of the Ferrari community. You're talking about a car that comes out at, let's say, $800,000. It's a $5 million car the next day.
Oh, yeah.
I think I learned how to drive on a manual. I went to Skip Barber, double clutch, Formula Dodge sort of racing schools. I love manual cars, but you cannot have a manual transmission in modern Ferraris because my leg press is in the multi-hundreds. It's still not strong enough to handle a clutch in a manual 1,000 horsepower car.
Yeah, I can see that. Best road you've ever driven anywhere in the world?
Best road I've ever driven. All right, this is going to sound strange, but Road Atlanta is probably the greatest private road I've ever been on. I've been on a lot of tracks. Road America is fantastic. So from like private, like racing roads, Road America, Indianapolis Motor Speedway I've been on, but Road Atlanta, it's one of the first tracks I ever went on, and it's my favorite. And I love it. I drive it at least 8 times a year. I love it. But from a driving road, oh God,
Well, we'll accept that answer.
let's just say Road Atlanta.
Yeah.
All right, last one. What do you want people to take away from your story, whether it's cars, business, or just life? Because you shared some interesting stuff today.
This blue marble that we are on, this universe, this weird reality that we have, is it an infinite universe? Is the blue marble, how many millions and billions of years is it going to be here? How many billions of universes? How many billions of galaxies? We are on this blue marble for 80 years. And, I think I had a psychiatrist once who said, the goal of this life is not to be happy. The goal is to be content. You're going to have sad moments. You're going to have happy moments, but content. And I want to say on top of that, passion. Just find those things that you're passionate about. Find those things that get you up in the day, whether it's business, whether it's cars, whether it's family. Just, find that one person you want to go through life with. It's the biggest decision you're ever going to make. Understand that person is the biggest decision you're ever going to make. You're here for 80 years. You're asleep for a third of that. You're under 10 years old for an eighth of that. You've got such limited time here. Just be excited. Just spend time with friends, spend time with family, spend time with the things you love, and just, when you're gone, you're gone.
Yeah.
But we have this amazing opportunity to be alive. Just
make it meaningful.
And you don't have to be a millionaire. You don't have to be a billionaire. I remember when I grew up, I was in graduate school. I was making $19,000 a year, living in Section 8 housing, $300 a month rent, and I was happy. I was content. I was excited. I was passionate about graduate school. I was passionate about the future. You don't need to have a lot of money to be content. You don't need to have a lot of money to be passionate. Legos, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You've got something that you're excited. You're asleep for a third of your life, and you're under 10 for an eighth of it. You just live it up. Just love it.
Well said.
Awesome.
Eric, thanks so much for joining us, brother.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
I'm glad we got a time to spend together.
Absolutely. Thank you, brother. We'll see you guys on the next one.